Ilia Topuria, who is currently 28 years old, is entering dangerous conversations as a fighter within the UFC, with his last 3 wins being the best back-to-back-to-back wins ever in the UFC. Ilia Topuria is not only becoming a superstar, but potentially what Conor McGregor was supposed to be. I'll explain that a little bit more within the video, but before I do, if you guys can, please hit the subscribe button and let's shoot for 10 likes on this video. Anyways, let's get into it. Ilia Topuria, who is currently 17-0 with 8 wins by knockout and 7 wins by submission, is getting a lot of notoriety, but that all started with his first chance of getting the belt against Alexander Volkanovski. Ilia Topuria got a lot of notoriety from the UFC fans with, going through the rankings in featherweight and getting a lot of attention with his rise. But I think the biggest difference with heading into this Volkanovski fight, like any other, was that he made a documentary from his childhood and his journey to becoming a UFC champion. And the thing was, Ilia Topuria didn't have the belt during that time. Ilia Topuria was scheduled to have his fight against Alexander Volkanovski during February 2024, and the documentary about his journey to becoming a UFC champion was a month after. And I think the big thing to note with UFC fans kind of picking this up is how much pressure Ilia Topuria is putting himself on this fight, because especially if he loses, this could look really bad. But on the case of Ilia Topuria winning this fight, this is such a high risk, high reward fight. And the big thing to note, and what was very interesting, was that Ilia Topuria's confidence was like no other. To have a documentary come out about your journey to becoming a UFC champion and you don't even have the belt yet, and you're scheduled to fight for a belt, and with even a possibility of you losing, he still managed to take that risk, put that pressure on himself, create that hype, and he was able to capitalize it when he was able to knock out Volkanovski in the second round to become a champion. And honestly, that pressure of having that documentary on the line really did pay off. And this got a lot of attention towards Ilia Topuria. What's going to happen next? What is his next move? Who's going to defend the title next? And well, his first title defense at featherweight was no other than another all-time great fighter in that division with Max Holloway. Heading into this fight, Max Holloway had actually a lot of momentum going into it. He was coming off of a win against Justin Gaethje at UFC 300, the last second knockout. He is considered to be one of the all-time strikers in the UFC. And on top of that, he's actually never been knocked out. But for Ilia Topuria, he's not phased at all. During the build-up of the fight, Ilia Topuria was talking about how he's going to be able to knock out Max Holloway and be the first one to do it. And with all that being said, and with a lot on the line from both sides of fighters, the fight happens. Ilia Topuria was able to be the first fighter to get a knockout win over Max Holloway. With Holloway, with all the fighters he's gone against, with being in there with Poirier, Gaethje, right? With the Calvin Katers, with Yair Rodriguez, Volkanovski as well. No one is able to knock him out until Ilia Topuria did it. And Ilia Topuria, within that same year, having a knockout win over Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, everyone in the UFC was curious on what Ilia Topuria's next move is. And well, Ilia Topuria decided to move up to 155. Ilia Topuria going up to 155, he was forced to vacate the 145 belt. But with him getting that opportunity of fighting for that lightweight belt, he had to either face Charles Oliveira or Islam Makhachev, not on his choice. It actually was determined off of the UFC 315 main event outcome between Bilal Muhammad and JDM. If JDM wins, Islam was going to go up to 170 and fight JDM. But if Bilal would have actually won that fight, we could have seen Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria fight for that 155 belt. But with the outcome of JDM kind of honestly being a underdog and pulling off a crazy win, Islam Makhachev vacated that 155 belt, and that's how we got Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. And with the recent events, Ilia Topuria walked the walk and talked the talk. He said that he was going to knock out Oliveira in one, and he did that. But what's more surprising, honestly, is not just him knocking out in round one. He knocked out Charles Oliveira so bad that he was flatlined. No other lightweights who knocked out Charles Oliveira ended up like that. As with Ilia Topuria, he came up from 145 to his 155 fight and flatline Charles Oliveira, to say the least. It's crazy. And Ilia Topuria, after that Charles Oliveira fight, is now talking about how this is the next superstar carrying the UFC, the next potential face of the UFC, and how this ties into Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor was supposed to be what Ilia Topuria is. Conor McGregor, doesn't have an undefeated record to begin with. In the beginning of his career, did talk the talk, but towards the end, he went into a skid. And I think the worst thing that he possibly did was go to boxing to get a shit ton of money, take on the Habib fight, lost that Habib fight, and I think it just went downwards ever since. Whereas, with Ilia Topuria, he has the best 3-fight win streak of all time within the UFC, undefeated. He puts more pressure on himself than Conor McGregor in his prime and is able to walk that. And not being able to lose the fight, sky's the limit for Ilia Topuria, and I cannot wait to see who he fights next within the UFC. Anyways, if you guys like this video and want more videos like this, please hit the like, comment, and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.